So what's value? Well, value is something that is important to someone at a particular time. The kind of people that might be involved there are the people around this wheel of collaboration. Quite often as a delivery manager, I see myself as being the hub of this collaboration wheel. The spokes are out to the various different types of stakeholder. And these stakeholders are pulling value through the system of work. And that system of work I see as being a value stream network. And that network is made up of nodes and edges, where the nodes are usually teams or teams of teams, and the edges are the relationships between those teams and teams of teams. And at the end points, there are stakeholders, which are also members of teams usually, and they are pulling value through all those nodes. And it looks a bit like a web to me. In my mind's eye, there's a web of teams and teams of teams, which make up an organisation with, as I've said, stakeholders pulling value through that. And at each node, value queues up if that node is particularly busy. If that node is too busy, the queue really builds up. And so you need to start to think about how you can get value flowing smoothly through that value stream network, and start looking at things like queue management and worrying about work in progress and limiting that and so on and so forth. But the central concept to a lot of my thinking is throughput. Whether we're talking about cognitive load of a particular individual within a team, or the team's cognitive load, or whether we're talking about bandwidth, that's communication bandwidth, that's how much information can flow through a team or an individual, and how much work can be processed by a team of individuals. So there's, in that system, there's demand and there's capacity, and there are constraints, and that then influences flow. And the key to success with all of this is to be able to develop insight. And how do you develop insight? Well, you need to ensure you're making all this really visible. Visibility is important because we're dealing with lots of intangible stuff here. Much of it is hidden. It's designs, it's ideas, it's problem solving, and that's something which lives in people's heads. It's stored on disks and held in memory, and isn't actually, none of what we do is physically experienceable. It's not something you can look at and go, I can see how we're making progress here because the spans are in place, there's these struts here, the foundations are there, I can see that we've just got to join up that to that, and that span of the bridge will be complete. I can then see there's some roads that are missing over here at this end. We can't do that with software. It's mostly invisible unless we make it visible. So we've got to work out how we can visualize this value stream network and get sight of our queues, get sight of what work is in progress where, get sight of the nature of that work, get sight of what work is waiting where is stuff just gathering and sitting, hanging about. I think there's a study somewhere that, I think it was Maersk Line, I can't remember actually, I think a shipping company, one of these companies that sends containers around the world full of goods on ships. I think it was Maersk, yeah, it must have been Maersk. They did a study, and in that study they showed that within their systems, the system they were developing to model as a model of how they actually operated, they discovered that almost 80% of the time a work item was just sat waiting because everyone was too busy to work on it. So that's a massive thing, isn't it? And it really, really affects estimating, because when we estimate something, we don't tend to think about that. We tend to think about the size and complexity of the thing we're going to develop or build or work on, not how much waiting around it there is and how that's going to affect the time it's going to take to get it out of our pipelines and deployed. So there's a lot of mileage in working on decision making delays. So a lot of that hanging around and waiting around is, people are too busy, but busy people are often involved in decision making. And so if you can work out how to, negate the effect of waiting for a decision by delegating decisions or providing decision rules so that you don't have to be involved or someone doesn't have to be involved in decision making. Yeah. So things like decision rules are often quite handy here. I just wanted to pop that in before moving on to forecasting. Now I'm running out of time for a LinkedIn video, so there's going to be a part 2. And in part 2, I'm going to get into forecasting, the actual act of forecasting, using this Throughput forecasting spreadsheet, which is actually something which you too can go and get from, and I've got no association with these people. I don't even know them. It's just I found it on the internet, and I've played with it, and it's a great way to demonstrate Monte Carlo simulation. So this spreadsheet is from Focused Objective, which is an agile consultancy somewhere out there in the world. I think there's a guy called Troy Magentis, and he has got all sorts of useful and fun content out there, which includes this spreadsheet and other useful tools and calculators. But I want to get into how forecasting works and how you can predict likely durations and end dates, and have an idea of where you're likely going to land in terms of when something's going to be completed, based on historical data and the use of Monte Carlo simulation. So that's up next. Thank you very much for listening.